The modern Team Ninja game output of responding to From Software but bending it more towards action has finally made it to the Sekiro parallel. Major parrying focus and glowy red circle indicators and all. And whatever reasons I had for not being quick to jump on it seem really silly after rolling credits, because Wo Long Fallen Dynasty is folded steel. It is refined and smart in ways I wasn't expecting, narrowing its focus explicitly on combat and introducing mechanics that have you thinking about that combat in new ways. The totality of the package is slightly weighed down by a story that doesn't take full advantage of the setting and a loot system that inundates you with worthless garbage, but with its combat-first gameplay structure and a fighting system that makes that structure appealing, Wo Long has got it where it counts. It ditches and borrows convention in perfect service to its magic swordplay style, and its edge is among the sharpest in the genre. The shift from Souls to Sekiro as our text manifests in Wo Long in a few different ways, most important of which is parry-centric combat that encourages relentless aggression. That aggression is woven into a unique magic and stamina system. Traditional sword swings don't consume any. Instead, stamina is largely a defensive resource that prevents you from indefinitely blocking and rolling around in circles. It can be replenished with precision parries, but aside from that there are two major twists. The first is that this same stamina system governs magic usage rather than being beholden to some sort of separate magic meter. And you can also stamina yourself into the negatives, at the risk of a self-imposed stun when you get hit at absolute zero. The romance of these three mechanics results in combat that's as fast as it is rich with choice. Magic spells can be cast with minimal resources, incurring a stamina debt you can pay off with future parries. But it also executes on a fundamental action-y tenet of just feeling good too. A riposte isn't a reward for a single parry, but instead needs to be earned by building your opponent's balance meter, requiring both sword swings to increase that meter and multiple parries to reduce that meter's max capacity. Huge bursts of damage will only be acquired after steel has met steel multiple times, and even the magical spells that get sent at you can be parried. When mastered, it's a satisfying game, one that rewards you for staying in there, being mindful of their swings, and budgeting for spells accordingly. Enemy and level design gives you tons of choice as well. Wo Long uses its mission-based structure to its advantage by crafting intimate 40-minute long straightforward combat arenas. You'll start to see their formula pretty quickly. Move forward in a straight line, clear out relevant branching passages that offshoot from the critical path, unlock shortcuts that make navigating the paths easier, then get yourself to an obvious boss clearing waiting for you at the end. What it lacks in surprises it compensates for with tight execution. For starters, there's a ton of verticality in these levels, letting you nab the high ground if you're willing to seek it out, and rewarding you with an insanely powerful descending strike that could one-shot weaker foes, or put a serious dent in the more elite enemies. But the biggest reason to poke your head around everywhere is to partake in Wo Long's twist on the traditional bonfire system and its relationship with leveling. Because Wo Long has two parallel leveling systems, inter and intra level. The former is your traditional stat increases that comes with you from mission to mission, but the latter is a morale meter localized to each map and goes from 1 to 25, and that's what's at risk when you die and need to make a corpse run. Make it back to the mob that killed you and return the favor to get it back, but importantly the presence of raisable banners throughout the mission will increase where your morale bottoms out at. A fully explored map with all banners raised will reduce your death penalty, so you can bolt your way to the final boss if you wish, you'll just be fighting with higher stakes if you fail. There's also some smart little touches you'll barely notice but contribute to the pleasure that Wo Long is to play, like how enemies in the immediate vicinity around a bonfire are marked in ways that prevent them from respawning. It's a forgiving system if you give the levels the time they demand. Couple that with generous bonfire placement that never has you repeating more than a few minutes and always lets you go right back to the boss you died at, it becomes clear that Wo Long is probably among the least punishing games in the get good genre. Which isn't to say that it's easy, only that its difficulty is laser focused on encounters and combat, not exploration. The tension that comes with traveling unknown paths does exist, but once you've conquered a level and literally planted your flag in it, the increased morale thresholds let you travel with near impunity. The shortcuts, bonfires, and increased morale floors stick with you even if you pop out of a mission and go back to home base, which affords you options when you get stuck. You can do the usual Soulsy plays of summoning some allies, NPCs or otherwise, but you can also just screw off and go level up in some side missions or reallocate your skills and gear to better fit the needs of the encounter. You can even grind for more equipment and upgrade it if needed, though there's probably way more that you'll ever want or need being thrown at you to juggle. It's tough but fair and challenging but seldom frustrating. Between the unique take on stamina, fun parry-everything gameplay system, and mission structure that encourages different approaches, Wo Long crafts encounters that are demanding in all the right ways and kept me hooked from beginning to end. I wish I could say the same about the story.
I am Liu Bei, leader of the militia of the Jewel Commandery, along with my 2 sworn brothers.
Maybe I'm in the minority, but I came to Wo Long with fervor for its Han Dynasty conflict as much as I did for its action combat. Early exposure to Dynasty warriors has skewed my appreciation towards these mythologized figures and heroes of the era, and to its credit, Wo Long delivers on this via gameplay. Boss fights embellish the big names and make them larger than life. The early fight against Lu Bu is a particular highlight, and its spectacle demonstrates that they know how to send fans into a frenzy. But when it comes time to make those same characters interesting in the narrative, Wo Long fails. There's 3 decisions that the story makes that don't feed off of each other well. First of which is the choice to make our protagonist a nameless, faceless OC. This is actually a departure from Neo, where we played a real dude with real motivations, and demonstrated by cover art that's now a dude's back instead of a dude's face. Our silent protag here is really just a factionless lens through which to view all sides of the demon-infused conflict. He's just here to stop the bad guy from getting elixir and listen to whatever everyone else tells him to do. He's a passenger in his own story, which might have worked if the drivers were more interesting. And they should have been. The source material is rich with named characters with distinct philosophies and visions for China that they're hoping to lead. Unfortunately, we jump between them so frequently that we never get the opportunity to be invested in any one man's story, but instead flip-flop between dozens of characters who don't have time to breathe or make an impact on the goings-on. It's a problem exacerbated by a big bad string puller that robs the cast of their agency and explains away nearly all conflict as the undue influence of dark magics. I can only assume it's structured this way to give the messy conflicts of the era an easy and uncontroversial, glowing dark bad guy that requires no knowledge of the history or setting to understand. And that's a shame because people would give a damn if Wo Long gave them a reason to. Peasant revolutions, the power vacuums they lead, and the conflicting philosophies seeking to fill those vacuums are the foundation of something compelling. And the characters and motivations are already there, just woefully underutilized. Because sadly, Romance of the Three Kingdoms is just a skin that Wo Long uses rather than a meaningful story it tells. It's a theme park ride through Han Dynasty China, and it checks the boxes of the folks you're supposed to meet and the places you're supposed to go. But between a boring protagonist, an underutilized and constantly shifting cast, and magical realism that's both the means and the ends, there's no reason to care about the story beyond the superficial skin it applies to the action structure. Thankfully, that action structure is among the best in its breed. You've played something like Wo Long before, and you've almost certainly touched one of its muses, but its relentless focus on fast-paced combat and unique stamina system leave its mark and make it more than worthwhile. A dull story keeps it from being the complete package, but that's a flaw that's easy to overlook because of how masterfully it understands the art of war.